Welcome back to my kitchen. I am Melinda. I'm so grateful to have this time together as we nourish. I hope that these several weeks have found you in peace and replenishment with offerings of wellness. Know that there's no perfect flow to life at this time, and that we're really always in cycles of our feelings from the inside out and in response from the outside back in. And as we're shifting from the safer at home to the reopening of our world's economy, may this find you in new understandings and new knowings of how you best connect, how you deserve to center, and how you resteady your own needle's internal compass forward. It's my hope that in turning our attention inward, that you realize that you can really hold your own hand for well-being and healthy practices, and that self-care can unfold when we take time to nourish. Get ready today as we get ready to nourish through our recipes. They're going to be filled with creativity and inspiration, hoping you get to build some confidence and the nutrition that you're going to reap all these rewards in full. Today we're going to make a plethora of healthy snacks. We're going to let the late spring and early summer veggies be our muse. So whether you're at home on your couch, you are picnicking in your own backyard, or you're at a park that you know you can snack safely as you enjoy these recipes together. I think a perfect snack component needs to have some crunch. It has to have some herbaceous seasoning, and I think all of our recipe todays do that for us. Our first recipe is going to be floral summer rolls, and these are as beautiful to look at as they are to eat. These floral summer rolls are going to be wrapped with edible flowers. You can find that at some of your organic grocery stores, and they are safe to eat and as beautiful to ingest as well. So the first thing we're going to do is to get our rice paper wrappers ready. So these are just rice papers that come like this. They look just like this. They kind of look beautiful and they don't look very edible, but once we put them in the water, the magic kind of happens, and they kind of go transparent. And they also have this real gelatinous feel to them, so they become a little bit of a tackiness to them. The trick with the rice papers are that they soften fairly quickly, so kind of just do one at a time. But this is a great recipe for little hands, for kids of all ages to take part of, and this is really where we get to fill with inspiration and creativity. There's no right or wrong way to do these. Each one is its own unique blooming of floral notes and veggies. So this one's just about ready. When it just about loses the bump of the texture, you can then lay it on your surface. I'm going to do mine up on this platform today, hoping that you might be able to see it. So I have that circular rice paper wet, and it is ready to go because it's a little loose and it's not as firm as it once was, so it's very pliable. What I'm going to do is first lay down my edible flowers, and this is the fun part because we can do it in a really beautiful artistic pattern. Kind of layer in our design, and knowing that this first side is going to be the actual top of our spring roll, as we're going to wrap it kind of burrito style, if you're familiar to that. I actually think that rice paper wrappers are a lot easier than flour tortillas for a burrito. They kind of hold their shape to themselves. Then I'm going to take my romaine lettuce and kind of lay that right on top, so I have my floral start. I'm going to lay my romaine lettuce right across that, and the fun begins. I'm going to just start layering in my nice julienne cut veggies. I wanted to share with you one of my new favorite veggies this late spring, and that's these Kirby cucumbers. I love how miniature they are. They also are really good at staying firm longer, and they're just so easy to cut up and dice to add to any salad, stir fry, or a spring roll as we are today. You can also see that I'm using them alongside our little dipping offerings for all of our crudité for our snacks. So I'm going to first lay down those Kirby cucumbers. I like the little firm texture that they offer, and I think a good spring roll has like a mixture of soft vegetables and some crispy vegetables. I think it's the play of textures that make this a really satisfying snack. And then I'm going to lay down some nice julienne carrot strips. So again, I have the edible flowers, the romaine lettuce, the cucumbers, and now the carrots julienne. Then I'm just going to add, for beautiful color and texture, some red peppers. So get creative with other vegetables that your family loves to crunch and munch upon, and just fill your spring rolls with that. I think it's always nice to add a nice healthy handful of mint and basil to a spring roll. Then I'm going to finish back with a romaine lettuce leaf. Kind of made like a little bit of a romaine lettuce sandwich of veggies, and very similar and traditional to a regular burrito. I'm going to roll up that one long end. I'm going to roll in my sides, and like I said, the rice paper is very tacky and sticky, and that kind of works in our favor as we kind of bring in those edges. And then I'm going to roll and fold. And there's our first beautiful spring roll. I'm going to do that again, just so that you get a chance to see that. So we're going to take our rice paper. Remember, it kind of has a little gingham texture to it. I'm going to lay it right in my water. It really doesn't matter if it's cold or warm. If it is warm, it's just going to get ready a little bit quicker. As soon as it starts, I'm going to massage it while it's in the water, and as soon as it starts to lose that texture that we once saw and goes a little gelatinous and a little sticky, I'm going to kind of rotate it once, and then it quickly goes transparent. These are really fun to make ahead. They're a great appetizer for a small gathering, or if you're headed somewhere, you could wrap these individually so everybody could kind of take their own. But they're great to make ahead. Keep them in the refrigerator and maybe like a plastic storage baggie with maybe like a dampened paper towel. But they're great to make a couple hours ahead. So again, I have that transparent rice paper stretched out over my little platform. I'm going to lay my edible flowers. A pretty, pretty pattern. This is the part I think just kids are a natural at. They are so free with creativity and colors and palettes. I love how kids approach art, and that's kind of what this is. It is kind of like edible art. And then we'll lay our romaine lettuce leaf. Now that I have my floral base, I'm going to layer in my nice julienne veggies. Again, these offer a nice healthy crunch. You could also make your own little sauce to go to the side. You can make a nice little peanut sauce or a little soy sauce, and with some sesame seeds, maybe a little fish oil. And then I'm going to finish off with my nice healthy handful of mint and basil. And I'm going to put that romaine lettuce leaf back on top. Again, it kind of holds all those julienne vegetables in place. I'm going to tuck everything in because I do want a little bit of a border of my rice paper. Again, I'm going to wrap it from the bottom up. And here's the thing, if it breaks, it's okay. No one's ever going to notice. Kind of let it seal on itself. Tuck everything back in. And with great confidence, I'm going to roll it. And there's my other spring bundle. I'll give that a little cut so that we can see the beautiful layering of the colors of our rainbow that are packed inside, but a healthy snack to have at any part of the day, or maybe an accompaniment for your dinner tonight. There are our floral summer bowls. So the next thing that we're going to work on together is a dip. And this dip is called Hearts of Pesto. And it was kind of a creation I had to take maybe about 2/3 ounce of basil. That's one of the small plastic packages. And I also took a 15-ounce jar of Hearts of Palm. Hearts of Palm is a leading veggie that is high in protein, fiber, calcium, vitamin C, and B6. And I mixed those in a blender. So it was the 2/3 ounce of basil. It was a 15-ounce can of hearts of palm. I also put in about a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and about 2 pinches of salt. And I just put that in a blender to just bring that to kind of a puree. And it makes a wonderful, very herbaceous dip. And I kind of put it in this cute little container. So if you needed to pack and go, want to make some individual dips of crudité for friends, if you're going to picnic together in a safe way, everyone could have their own individual crudité and dip. The nice thing about this dip is that it is not a milk-based, dairy-based, mayo-based, so it does really well outside in the sun, whether you're outside for a picnic, poolside, or maybe on a hike. This is a nice thing to take along the way, knowing that you're also offering yourself back some wonderful nutrition. The next thing that we're going to talk through together is probably the highlight of our recipes today. So we're going to make some homemade hummus. I have to say there is a big difference between homemade hummus and store-bought hummus, and you just won't probably know that. Light, creamy, velvety texture till you make it yourself, but it's worthy to try once. But in preparations of our hummus, we probably want to get some good crunching, dipping things to go with it. I made some homemade pita chips, and that's what we're going to kind of put together first today, are some homemade pita chips. And I'm also going to roast some chickpeas. Chickpeas are the basis of hummus, and also on their own, chickpeas are a wonderful snack option because chickpeas, garbanzo beans, whatever you like to call them, are very high in protein. They also improve your digestion. They're rich in B6, and they also decrease risk factors for disease. So they're a wonderful, healthy option to have when you're looking for a crunch of a snack. We're going to roast the chickpeas and season them, and they are something you could eat just like a potato chip while you're engaged in just wanting to really have that real crunch and saltiness and nice, fulfilling, creamy texture. So we're going to make some roasted chickpeas, and while we're at it, we're going to just roast some pita chips so that we can have as a dipper for our hummus. So the first thing that we're going to do is to get this ready to go into the oven. And to do so, we're just going to layer on about 1 tablespoon of that extra virgin olive oil. I'm going to kind of use my little bottle here, and it's just a pretty easy recipe because, as you can see, I'm just kind of drizzling a little bit of it on our pitas, and I'm also going to stretch and drizzle some right across our garbanzo beans. So that's probably no more than 2 tablespoons, so maybe 1 tablespoon across all of the pitas. I'm going to use my little pastry brush and brush the olive oil right on the pita itself. So this is just a pita bread that hasn't been cooked or anything yet. We're about to toast that in the oven. I'm going to get a little more olive oil for my last pita bread. These are wonderful just to make ahead and also keep them in like an airtight storage container. I have kitchen scissors or kitchen shears, and what I tend to do is when these are cool is I cut them into the little triangles, and then everyone's good to go to grab those for a nice little crunch. And I'm also just going to make sure I mix up my garbanzo beans. So I'm just putting my garbanzo beans that were rinsed under cold water. I'm going to just kind of toss them in the oil as I layered on some olive oil across my pitas. Then I'm going to give a nice, healthy sprinkle of za'atar, which is kind of a Middle Eastern seasoning. It has sumac and sesame seeds and some garlic and some other wonderful spices. That I'm going to put just across my pitas. And it's a pretty healthy seasoning I give it, the za'atar, Mediterranean seasoning. And then across my chickpeas, you can do many different options. Today I'm going to add some cumin. It's a wonderful season that will fare well to add as a topper to our hummus or just to munch and crunch on their own. And also I'm going to give a nice little pinch of salt. my assistant, who is my daughter, she's also my videographer, my web designer, and my film editor, is going to pop these into the oven for me so that we can keep on track and on to our next plan. So we have already accomplished our floral spring summer rolls. We already made and talked through a healthy hearts of pesto dip. And then the next thing we're going to work towards, as we have our chickpea snacks going in the oven and our pita crisps as well, we're now going to move into making the hummus. So to make the hummus today, I'm going to base everything off of 1 can of hummus, which is about 15 ounces of the chickpeas or garbanzo beans. These have already been rinsed in cold water, and I'm just going to add those into my pot on medium with some baking soda. That baking soda kind of helps to bring that little clear casing that engulfs the chickpea or the garbanzo bean off. And the reason why we kind of want to loosen that little clear casing off the chickpea or garbanzo bean is that it will really make our hummus in the end be real extra creamy and velvety. I think it's the texture that it really lends itself for. So for about 3 minutes, we're just going to kind of dry fry the garbanzo bean and the baking soda. And I use today just about 1 3/4 of a tablespoon of baking soda on the chickpea, that 15-ounce can of chickpea. So after 3 minutes go by, I'm going to add about 6 cups of cold, fresh water. And I'm going to keep that on at medium heat. And next I'm going to add our garlic, and I have about 3 cloves of garlic already minced. We'll put that in. And then next I'm going to add some salt. So I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of salt. So this is going to cook on the stove. We have the 15-ounce can of garbanzo beans that we kind of dry fried in a little bit of baking soda, then for 3 minutes, and then we added in 6 cups of water. We added in our baking soda, we added in our salt, and we added in our garlic, our 3 cloves of garlic. So we're just going to kind of bring that to a boil. Then we're going to just turn it down to simmer. And this process takes about 45 minutes to 1 hour. So just think about that as you're timing out your day. What I want to mention is if you wanted to use raw garbanzo beans or chickpeas, you certainly can. They would fare best if you could soak them overnight in water, and then they would probably take closer to 1 hour once you get to this process on the stove. If you're using canned chickpea garbanzo beans, then just going right into this process on the stove will probably be more of the 45 minutes. Either one makes a wonderful hummus in the end. So one doesn't make a better hummus than the other. They both make a very flavor, earthy toned, rich and creamy hummus as a final product. Once these chickpeas come to a boil, we're then going to turn it down to low and let that simmer for 45 minutes. And I do leave it uncovered while I simmer it. And I sometimes just give it a little stir in between to kind of agitate the chickpeas in the water so that those casings start to kind of just float away. They look like little tiny jellyfish just floating in the water. We'll eventually strain those out. So we'll say that our 45 minutes has passed, and the next phase is that we're going to strain the chickpeas. We're going to rinse them under cold water. We're going to put them back into this pot, and we're going to fill it with cold water so we can agitate off the rest of the skins of the chickpeas. Then we're going to take the chickpeas and kind of use our hands. I have a lot of kitchen tools, but I find my hands work the best for this phase. So back when we have just the chickpeas in the cold water after the hour, I'm going to just use my hands to keep skimming that water surface for removal of the chickpeas. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to also skim off about 1/2 cup of this liquid that the chickpeas have cooked in, and I'm going to save it as I go into the last part of making our hummus today. So we're going to take those chickpeas that we've strained, remove the casings from, and we're going to put them into our blender, and we're going to pulse just those cooked chickpeas and some of the garlic that's made its way with it on a puree just until it kind of forms its own self into a ball. Kind of gets mashed down, we'll say, down into a ball. Then, as the blender will be running, I'm going to add 2/3 a cup of tahini paste. Tahini paste is just sesame seeds that have been grounded down. So 2/3 a cup of tahini. I think it's the tahini that gives hummus that familiar flavor that we all love. I'm also going to add about a quarter of a cup to a half a cup of lemon juice. And that was a cup, so about a quarter of a cup to a half a cup of lemon juice. And I'm also going to take back that reserved chickpea liquid that I had, and I'm going to add it also back at the end here. And so I'm going to reserve a half a cup, but I'm going to start with about a quarter of a cup and know I can go up to a half a cup to add back to thicken this chickpea to make it into a pureed hummus. So again, right in my container here, I have my tahini, my lemon juice, and some of the reserve liquid from the chickpea liquid. And I'm going to add a little bit back because this has gotten a little bit thick. So to loosen it, I'm going to add back that reserved chickpea broth. So I always take out more than I think I'm really going to need in the end. But I'm going to kind of re-stir this. And this is all going to go through the blender as it's already pureeing and kind of emulsify and mix back in to the garbanzo beans. Okay. So I'm going to add some in and then I'm going to run the blender. Processor, whatever you have in your home, that's a great kitchen tool for pureeing or emulsifying. The rest of my tahini and lemon juice back in. Very creamy, very consistent, such a beautiful hue. And I'll offset our crudité and our pitas, really lovely. If you are going to take this on a little picnic to go or hosting some friends at a safe distance in your backyard, that you can put these into little containers. So I'm going to take my hummus. So I think my roasted chickpeas are just coming out of the oven now. And I'm going to take my roasted hummus and kind of just put that in individual containers. I think what makes hummus hummus is to add a little dash of olive oil back on top. I think we also want to add some fresh parsley on top. And we're going to add some of those roasted chickpeas. I made some here in advance. Those are coming out of the oven right now. And maybe a little dash of paprika. So here is our hummus, all packed and ready to go. And we can pack up some crudité as well. So let me show you how everything came out of the oven. We have our roasted chickpeas at the forefront here. So those are a great snack. You can just pile them into a big bowl, sprinkle maybe a little basil or a little parsley, a little sea salt extra on top, and I bet you they'll be devoured within minutes. And here again we have our pita breads that we kind of roasted with the za'atar seasoning with the olive oil base that we put to that in the oven. So the pita breads and the chickpeas both went in the oven together at 375. After 6 minutes, we took out just the pita breads. We put the tray back in the oven, the chickpeas. They roasted at an increased temperature at 400 degrees for an additional 10 minutes. So there's a nice little crunch that you can have to eat from or to add to your little crudité topping and your pitas that you can cut up and use as your best dippers in your hummus alongside your crudités, your hearts of pesto, and your veggie wraps. Thank you all so much for being a part of this time together, and know that all of these recipes will also be included in a link so that you can follow them at your pace, so that you can settle down with the comfort of your home and think about using some healthy summertime and late spring vegetables to offset your gatherings, whether it's just yourself or just maybe a very handful of people at this time, but knowing that we all can be connected, whether at your home, my home here, or together through our healthy foods of nutrition and nourishment. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep safe and well.